Good morning, everyone. How have you been? This is now our webinar, first webinar after our summer break. I trust you had a good summer. I know I did. I am Dr. Loy Parks. I am the Leadership Development and Institutional Strengthening Specialist with the Caribbean Center for Development Administration, CARICAD. And we are absolutely delighted to resume our regular monthly webinar series. This is part of our strategy to support ongoing leadership development for our leaders across our Caribbean region, particularly our public services, although of course, all are invited. And the topic today is work-life balance for senior leaders. Possibility or pipe dream? That's the question that we're going to be exploring today. And so before we get into it, we always invite people or remind people what are some of the tips for having a good virtual learning experience. So this is part of your own capacity building. And so in the virtual learning space, there are some tips and techniques for getting the most out of the experience. The webinar is pretty short, roughly an hour. And so we want to lean in and get all that we can from it. And so we want to remove our distractions, remove our mute our phones, close other software applications on your device. Remind your colleagues, pretty much no one will die if they don't trouble you for an hour. Just allow you to lean in and to learn all you can. And of course, it's a webinar, so you don't absolutely have to engage using your headset and microphone. But if you want to participate using by raising your hand, joining the discussion verbally, then it would be good for you to have a good working headset and microphone. But we also are going to be using the chat feature extensively. So you can post your comments, your questions in the chat. So, I'm talking about the chat. I'm always curious to know, where are you joining us from today? As usual, I am joining from Jamaica. I work remotely for CARICAD from Jamaica. And I really want to give a shout out to, I am looking at the participant list and I'm seeing quite a few of our current participants and past participants and some of our key stakeholders. So I am seeing our member of our board at CARICAD, or I think you were served on the board for a bit, Abigail Baino from Trinidad and Tobago. Abigail, welcome. Also want to acknowledge another board member, Soyinka Grogan. She's a board member from Guyana. And there's so many of our current participants. And we have 3 leadership interventions going on simultaneously. So I'm seeing names like Monel Nikki, Michelle Darshil, oh yes, Shireen, Simone. Oh, the list goes on. Too many to count. And I think some of our past alumni as well. Welcome, special welcome. So I am heading to the chat and I am seeing, yes, Petrina from Jamaica. She's currently in our mid-level leadership development program. Amadonna from BVI, welcome. Shireen from Jamaica. Faye from Barbados, one of our esteemed alumni. Faye never leaves us out. Aisha from BVI, yes, that's another alumni. Tasha from BVI. Nadine from Trinidad. Trisha from BVI. Karen Vanterpool from BVI. Wendy from Trinidad. Cynthia from Kingston, Jamaica. Joycelyn from BVI, Suzanne Lawrence Jordan from Barbados, Anthony Joseph, current participant, joining from Barbados, Eileen from BVI, Monel from BVI, Kian from Montserrat, welcome, Cheryl George from Antigua, Stephen, who is currently in Canada, but BVI public servant, TNT public servant, Gwyneth from TNT, Claire Innes from beautiful Barbados. Welcome, Claire. Claire is one of our past, not only participant, but webinar presenter, facilitator. Vita from Montserrat, Ireland. Welcome, Ireland. Agnes from BVI. Denise from Tobago. Cleveland from St. Lucia. Hortense from Kingston. Sumati from Trinidad. Arita from Guyana. Luan from BVI. Cheryl Ramroop from the Public Service Academy in Trinidad. Gatry from Trinidad. I hope I'm pronouncing it right. Hadasha, I'm not sure, from Grenada. Erland telling us he's from Tobago. Tiffany from BVI. Ava from Trinidad. Ooh, I love it. Henrietta from BVI. Portia from BVI. Joycelyn from Antigua. Malika, one of our alumni from Public Service Academy. From Trinidad. Daphne Cassell, PS, Permanent Secretary Daphne Cassell from Montserrat. Jacqueline Spence Hemmings, I think it's from the Meteorological Officer in Jamaica. Jackie, welcome. He didn't put a type in the chat, but I want to give a special welcome. He's also an alumni from our Leading Change workshop. Damian Black, the head of the Jamaica Territory Education Commission. Nalisha from Trinidad. Oh, the whole CARICAD is up in here. So welcome, welcome, welcome to you all. And so just a little bit about CARICAD. CARICAD, over 40 years in existence, is an arm of CARICOM, and we support member states in the area of public sector transformation. And what you see on the board here are some of the specific areas that we provide technical assistance in. You know, capacity building, this is part of what we're doing here, change management, public financial management support, strategic planning, results-based management, leadership development, policy development, human resource management and development, organization development and design services, business continuity services, among others. And our work is very much guided by the Public Service Charter. It's a common charter, a common conceptual framework to guide member states and our work in the area of public sector transformation. And so if you want to learn more about our services, about our public service charter, please do visit our website at caricad.net. So before I introduce our guest speaker, and by speakers, we're really just having a very easy conversation and a deep conversation about the topic. And you heard the topic, right? Achieving work-life balance for senior leaders, possibility or pipe dream. And so you would have volunteered to sign up for this webinar. And we are curious, myself and my co-presenter, Hilary Alexander, who will introduce to you in a moment. What's the most pressing question you want answered in relation to this topic? And invite you to type in the chat. What is the most pressing question you want answered in relation to this topic? Now, let me hasten to say that Hilary and I cannot promise that all questions will be answered. It's a short webinar after all, but perhaps more importantly, this is an area where there isn't necessarily one right answer. That's one of the things that we always delve into in our leadership programs, you know, that leaders bring into existence that which does not yet exist. And so what are the possibilities for addressing this issue for you, for your team? One answer for me might be the answer for you, and one answer in one season of life may not be the same answer for another season of life. So, but you would have signed up because the topic somehow resonated with you. And so what is it that prompted you to sign up? What is that question for you that you want answered? And I see many senior leaders here, and we know that this is a topic that, and the issue that we are all really grappling with. And so Daphne, Daphne, I think you read my mind, because if I said, if you didn't type, I was going to call on you. I'm so bad. Am I not, Daphne? But Daphne, I know as a permanent secretary, falls in that category as a senior leader. Daphne is asking, how is this practically accomplished, given the myriad of demanding requirements and resource constraints? Yes, that's a good question, Daphne. And hopefully we can start to unpack some of these things. Thank you for that, Daphne. And so, and Daphne is pointing out, resource constraints includes staff shortages. Yes. And shortages can come in the form of, shortage in terms of actual bodies. Some people may be suffering from higher vacancy rates. That's been happening quite a bit in quite a few areas of our public services in the Caribbean. But staff shortages can also mean competencies, as we know that the Caribbean has a very, very high rate of migration of our skilled resources. Stephen is asking, what are ways in which I can further improve my current work-life balance? Great question again, Stephen. Thanks for that. And hopefully, we can share some insights, not just myself and Hillary, but we're going to have opportunity for discussion. And of course, using the chat, we are not the fount of all knowledge. And so all ideas are welcome. Alstica, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly, I hope. Is it even possible? She's asked, or he, could be a he, I'm not sure. Never heard the name before. How can I do so without feeling guilty? Oh my goodness, that's a good one. That is a good one. And without jumping into the discussion before the discussion ought to start, that is something I have personally grappled with. That I am thinking, okay, no, I am need to focus on the balance side and leave work a little bit. Let me, and while I'm there thinking I am relaxing, I'm there feeling guilty for not working. And this was a weekend, mind you. So the quick answer to that I found, don't know if it worked for you. I literally had to have a serious talk with myself. And I had to give myself permission to not to put that boundary in place. And when I am not supposed to work it, to really be okay with it. And I also had to then schedule other activities, what is the activities? I mean, relaxing activities. I had to be very specific about what I'm going to do. So if I'm going to go for a walk, going to go for a hike, but it had to be there to be done so that I am truly not tempted to work. Here's some other questions. Tasha is asking, is creating a work-life balance truly achievable in the new context of the life of a senior public officer? Yes, I see somebody putting a little thumbs up there because that's the question they're having too. Faye is, how do you get employers to respect that you have a life outside of work? Ooh. Wendy's asking, how can I achieve this happy equilibrium given the almost 24/7 demands of work, which creeps into your personal time too often? Malika, how do I define boundaries when I'm providing sponsored I'm provided with sponsored organization devices and their expectations of senior officers going above and beyond. So, I hope you all get what Malika is saying. So, we all have the wonderful work phone where people, you're just a click away. And so we see that we're always connected. And it seems as if the expectation is you should be on call 24/7. How do I set boundaries? Antia, um, is Jamaica in a position to adopt or implement a 4-day work week? So what I'm just relating to, there are a lot of companies and even some countries, not in the Caribbean as far as I know, but in other parts of the world that are actually experimenting with this. And there are some companies, as a part of flexible work arrangements, um, experimenting with this. And I'm just wondering, is it feasible? Will it contribute heavily towards work-life balance? Will it improve productivity? Is this an answer? And who knows? Not all jobs and organizations are designed in a way that could accommodate that, but maybe some can and maybe some are. Who knows? All right. So thank you so much for your questions, and we're not forgetting them, and we might come back to some of them during the Q&A, and hopefully as we have the discussion, maybe some of you start to get some insights on that. It is my absolute delight to introduce to you my esteemed colleague, and I dare say good friend, Ms. Hilary Alexander. Now, Hilary has extensive experience as a senior leader, both in private sector and in the public sector. And some of her roles that she has had in the public sector in Jamaica. She was the head of the public sector modernization division under the Cabinet Office. And her last engagement, which was quite a lengthy one, was that of permanent secretary. And she served, how ministry names change, but some of the portfolios that she managed included energy, science, technology. Hilary is a certified executive coach and one of our associate consultants that he served as executive coach for us a couple of years now. She's currently coaching on our leadership development intervention for Trinidad and Tobago Deputy Permanent Secretaries for our emerging leaders development program that we're currently doing with the British Virgin Islands and with our current crop of mid-level leadership development program participants. And so, Hilary, I want to invite you to turn your camera on, and we are going to start this discussion in earnest. So, Hilary, thanks and welcome. So here is what the first question we want to consider, because we're throwing this term around, work-life balance. And the truth is that, what does it mean? There might be various iterations and variations, but for you personally, what does it mean?
Hi, Lloyd. Hi, everybody. First of all, let me just say I am absolutely thrilled to be in this meeting. It's so good to see so many people interested in such a topic. Some of you I know, some of you I don't yet know, but we will hopefully cross paths in the future. And I'm really, really happy to be here, and I really look forward to the discussion that we're having. And as always, Lloyd, it's a pleasure to be associated with you, both as a friend and as a professional. So to get to the meat of the matter, this work-life balance, what is it really? And the traditional kind or the formal thing is having that healthy equilibrium between your professional work, your professional responsibilities, and your personal commitments, your personal life, but in a way that brings better self-care, promotes well-being, and reduces your stress. And something that I know that we all have dealt with, right? Big, big problem. Not only in the Caribbean, but probably worldwide. So that's I think in a nutshell, what it is. For me, and you made a point earlier, Lloyd, that it's going to be unique and dynamic. It's going to be different for different people, depending on where you are, who you are, what your personal commitments are, what stage of life you're at, personally and professionally as well. So it will change. It will change for somebody in their 30s as opposed to somebody in their 50s, yeah? But what is important is that we take this as something that is absolutely imperative in your life. And I feel it's absolutely possible. It is possible. One of the things we have to do is commit to it. For me, it was or is having I would say freedom is the word that comes to mind. The personal freedom to do and be present. You made that point, Lloyd, right? That you know, be fully present, doing the things when I want to and how I want to, and the things that I need to do without that feeling of guilt or stress or discomfort, and to be fully present and enjoy and find fulfillment. Find fulfillment in doing those things. It means a lot to me because at this stage of my life, you're seeing people leave this mortal climb young, middle age, and not so young. And it really brings you into sharp focus with what are the things that really matter. We're professionals, and being in the public service, you know my view on that. And some of you have shared this. It's a calling. It's a calling. More than, yes, I've worked in private sector, I've had my own business and so on. But working in the public sector is a calling. You have to have that passion. You have to be able to deal with a lot of stresses. You're dealing with the public, you're dealing with the political directorate, you're dealing with it. You don't have necessarily all the resources. Some people have put that in the chat already, right? So and it's not about the money. Yeah. So it's a calling. And with especially senior leaders tend to give and give more and more and more and take on more and more and more. And that leads to burnout. And the same questions that I see coming up here are things that certainly I've heard. And many of us will have and will feel. But I think the question to ask, does it really have to be that way? Does it have to be that way? Are you the person that has to do it all? Do you have all the answers? It brings us to the next thing. How do we work differently to achieve it? How do we work to achieve that goal of work-life balance? Yeah.
Yeah. No, thank you for that, Hillary. No, for those who know me, and many of you do, and know my story, that I used to be chief personnel officer for the government of Jamaica. And absolutely great job. Was a university in and of itself, but also very, very high levels of stress. And unfortunately, I did not manage it very well and had a lot of challenges with hypertension that for quite a couple of years was not controlled properly. I did not take care of myself, and eventually it led to heart failure in May of 2015. And I really almost died. It was that severe. But it was a tremendous turning point in my life. And I can see from that experience is that it took that for me to get very, very intentional about achieving work-life balance. And so I had to really, really reflect on this. And so as we talk about what are some of the challenges, and I saw where Daphne spoke about resource constraints. And two things happened when I went back to work. One was that I had to really be honest with myself. And whereas I made the excuse that, oh, only I alone could do certain things, I had to admit that I alone could not do certain things. And so I took a good look at my team, a look at the things that I had to do and say, no, I have to delegate. And so I did. Major projects, I delegated. And you know what? I was not disappointed. No, I didn't just delegate, and I delegated, not abdicated. So I gave the guidance, the coaching. But you'll be surprised. By being very careful about giving the guidance, the coaching, of course, you're monitoring. My staff did not disappoint. And people who we thought were just these little quiet little introverts, we saw them blossom. I saw them blossom. And so sometimes we say, oh, we don't have the staff. Sometimes we're thinking very bureaucratically and hierarchically. I remember one of the major projects, I went down the totem pole, not to the just one of my direct reports, somebody a little lower down, who I said, you know what? I think this person has the potential to take this on. And now that person is now a senior leader because that gave the opportunity to grow. The second thing was you have to set boundaries. You
Absolutely.
have to you absolutely set boundaries. And so I remember going back and I see my dear boss here. Welcome Mr. Devon Rowe, Executive Director. Now, at the time, he was Financial Secretary. And the government of Jamaica at the time was going through a major IMF program. And where I worked had some deliverables under that program. And I normally people say, no, you can't negotiate a shift in deadlines. And I did. I said, no, we can do this thing, but we can't do it in within that time frame. And you know what? There was pushback. Yes, I stood my ground. And you know what? The deadline was shifted. The thing was done. All the checks, all the ticks were, all the check marks happened in terms of that IMF program and those targets. It still happened. And so sometimes we think, oh no, everything has to be done at this time. We have to be willing to have the courage to say, look, we can do it. This is how we can do it. These are the resource constraints. These are the other constraints. And to really be courageous in having those conversations. So Hillary, talk to me about boundary setting. Because, people say, no, your politician thinks that you're on call 3 o'clock in 3 a.m. they want to text you, this kind of thing. I'm sure you've worked with many ministers, both sides of the political divide. How did you deal with boundary setting?
And that's a complex question, yeah, because it depends on the individuals that you're dealing with and how you communicate what you want to say is important, yeah. Explaining and sitting with them and investing in developing that relationship and getting better understanding of the roles and what the priorities are, I think is extremely important. And certainly being able to say, listen, if we do all of these things, then the depth and the impact of what we're doing is not going to be achieved. What are the key things that we must do, right? And if you want me and our team to be productive and to make you look good, make these projects be successful, then we're going to have to let this go down here, set that boundary down here, set that timeline down here, and this is what we're going to do. And it means that you have to respect our time and our lives, and we'll respect yours. If there is an emergency, that's a different thing. When you have that internal understanding and you have your team engaged, then they will step up as you found, Lord. When there is an emergency or there is a significant timeline and it's all hands on board, it's not always a situation that you can leave at 6 o'clock in the evening or 5 o'clock every week, and that's how it's going to be. Sometimes it will be a 24/7. But you will have that support and that understanding and that also appreciation of going that extra mile. And I'll give you a little story that put it in perspective for me very early. We had perhaps at the time was the largest aid program that the country had ever managed. It was a CEDA program. It was underspent for the rest of the world. It meant they felt that we could do it. We felt that we could do it. It meant cooperation with international agencies. It meant cooperation with the overseas suppliers of all of these different basic foods and so on. It meant private sector from the marketing side, the distribution side, wharf operations and so on. And quite frankly, it was a big ask. We had a team of guys that worked on the ports. We went down there, found out what it was they needed, able to achieve this massive set of shipments, right? We bought them bicycles at the time, yeah? And my first date with somebody who is still very much in my life, we loaded up the back of the car with Kentucky Fried Chicken, drinks and all sorts of things and took it down there until 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock at night. But guess what? everybody, private sector, public sector, everybody pulled together and we did it. And at the end of the day, we gave some of those guys on the wall some nice days off. And we had a little celebration and said, listen, you guys did an amazing job. And everybody from private sector and public sector got together and said, listen, great teamwork. So it comes to the point you made, Lloyd. Setting those boundaries, setting those targets. You treat your life and this work-life balance almost like a project. You look at what are the goals, what are the priorities that you have, how are you going to get there, how are you going to consciously and intentionally use your time, yeah? And then you see those things and you communicate those, even communication, yeah? And setting those boundaries comes with communication and being able to say, listen, I am worth it. I am worth it. Your team is worth it. And you, the minister too, are worth it.
You know, on that last point, and so many people, we talk about the political administrative interface. Here's the thing, politicians are just human beings too, you know. And in discussions that I have had with many politicians, here is the thing, people, they're having the same struggles. They might not tell you if you don't broach the topic, but they too are having major challenges with achieving work-life balance. Because think about it, they're, you know, everybody is coming to them, their constituents, you know, their prime minister, all these different stakeholders. You know, I can remember talking to one minister who was also a member of parliament, and he said, look, I'm actually I'm suffering from hypertension. And on the days when I go to my constituency office, by the time the day is done, his blood pressure is through the roof. All right. But so many of us don't have that real human conversation with, you know, the political director that we have to interface with, intimate, you know, closely as, you know, as senior leaders. And so this one I think that I would encourage, you know, let's talk about it. And so that when you can say, have the kind of mutual understanding that, hey, everybody needs that balance. Let us, but we also need to achieve some things, yes? So let's work together to see how we can, you know, manage both of those things. It's really not either or, it's a polarity to be managed. Yes. Hillary, yeah, I think you're going to comment.
I think it's important. In one of the other discussions that we had in the past, I made the point that I think investing in building relationships is a critical skill and element of being. It's important as we see it happening across the world. It's important to communicate and it's important to get understanding and appreciation of what people's perspectives are. And sometimes we have to, as you say, step out of that comfort zone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And have that discussion, have those discussions so that there is greater understanding and greater clarity. And the other thing is in recognizing that people are people and we all deal with these stresses and so on, is also in one of my earlier remarks is, you know, looking critically at how are we really using our time? How are we really using the resources that we have? How many times do we hear in a day, I don't have the time. I don't have the time to do this. Everything is coming to me. You know, I'm overloaded. That's the burnout aspect. Yeah. And at that point in time, when you reach that point in time, you're not happy. I can tell you, your staff ain't going to be happy. And you're not making the best decisions either. Achieving or trying to work-life balance means that you are going to be more productive. You are going to be healthier physically and mentally. You will certainly be more productive, as I said, and your staff will have that opportunity. You made the point, Lloyd, to grow, because you will consciously make that decision to Engage the team. Find out what are their strengths, where are the gaps, how do you optimize those strengths, what are you going to do to minimize those gaps. If it's a training program, you use CARICAD, right, to deal with some of these things. But if you don't take that time to find out what those strengths are, you are not using your team optimally, and you're not time optimally. Because all too often the mantle of and the blanket of it's me, I have to do it, and it becomes comfortable too, even as it is having the negative effects on your health and your well-being. But it becomes what you're used to, it's your environment. But the question I'd ask you to ask yourself, does it have to be that way? Does it really have to be that way? Are you really doing the things that you should be doing? Building your organization, making it resilient and strong, being creative and innovative, being engaging so you have those cross-ministry contacts and working together with the private sector or whatever that you need to be able to deliver some of these projects. Just remember that you are a role model too. You're a role model. And you want to make sure that when you leave, you're leaving a stronger people who can continue. Because let me tell you, if you drop dead tomorrow, let's put it in the most bold term. If you drop dead tomorrow, it's going to continue. Work is going to continue. Who is going to feel it? Yes. You're lucky you'll have some people in the organization who will truly miss you, or your colleagues, and your family, the people who you love and who care for you. Their lives will be changed. So you have a choice. You have a choice, and you have to, as you said, Lord, you have to be courageous and say and make an intentional choice with how you use your time. And you treat it like a project. You schedule your time. If your goal is, and remember, as we said, it's going to be unique. If your goal is to spend more time with your family or your children, or do homework 6 days a week or whatever, or spend time with your significant other, then you have to give that importance and schedule your time, your energy, so that when you do that, you are present.
Yeah.
Was one of your things. How many times have we gone to the gym or we go to a seminar? You see people leaving and they're not present. You're talking to, and don't feel seen or appreciated. And that is a very, very big negative. Yeah. So it's being intentional, scheduling it, it's building your organization and your team, engaging them, and being able to comfortably delegate so that you don't have that stress when you try and do the things on the personal side. Yeah?
Yeah.
And it's the guilt or the discomfort, pleasant and joyful. And you can be, and let me make this point, you can be happy at work too, and be happy at home too. They are not mutually exclusive. In fact, it's a great feeling. I've been blessed. And let me call out my former teams elsewhere. I have been blessed with the people who have come in there. Mr. Devon Rowe, the permanent secretary, me, Lloyd, your boss, Charlie Jones, our former cabinet secretary, Carlton Davis, Doug, my public sector modernization colleagues, my people in the ministry, amazing people. And you had to make the time to know them.
Yeah.
And know you as well.
Yeah. And it's not because things always go well, but I can remember there's a particular project team that Hillary and I are on, and things were going very pear-shaped. Some consultants who we had to fire, and it was annoying, upsetting. We had to deal with it, and we figured out a strategy. But you know what we did, and it was done? We had a good laugh. We laughed. We turned it into a joke. not because it wasn't serious, but laughter is the best medicine. And it just being able to laugh about, find the humor in it all, it was good medicine. The other thing too, I want to just kind of elaborate on this is the whole business of scheduling. Trudy Waterman, she's one of a member of staff here at CARICAD and one of our executive coaches. And she always says this: what gets scheduled gets done. And so it's really about actually getting very intentional about managing your resource, this very scarce resource called time. All right? Time, it has to be managed. And so senior leaders, one of the things that steals your time are meetings. Meetings. Meeting. There are lots of meetings. And so, oh yes, and distraction of the phone. But I particularly want to talk about meetings and some strategies that I have found useful, not only for myself, but a lot of my coaches have found useful. So there are the meetings that maybe you're the one chairing, you're the one calling them, scheduling them. And so those meetings, you actually have control. And so you need to figure out how do you manage those meetings that you have full control over in terms of scheduling, in terms of making sure that the time is well spent in the most productive way, with a proper agenda, with clear outputs to come from a meeting, right? So there are those. And those are never usually quite the problem. It's the other meetings you get called into, right? From other stakeholders. And here is what you need to do. You need to do some analysis of these meeting invitations. No, I'm not telling you just go and to say no to all of them. No, you might get yourself fired. But you do need to do some analysis, right? Why do they need you at that meeting? Because depending on what it is that they want from you, maybe you don't need to be at the meeting. Maybe it's something that you can oh, I've seen some comments here in the chat. We're going to come to that momentarily. But a lot of these meetings, you have to ask yourself, why do they want you there? What's the contribution they want you to make? And maybe you don't need to be there. Maybe you can send the document on via email. Maybe it's just a telephone discussion. It doesn't need to be a meeting. Or you can delegate the going to that meeting to another member of your team, which a lot of times actually can be a very good developmental opportunity for your team member. Now, some people will tell you they get a little pushback because they want you, the senior person, to be there, and they don't want the quote unquote junior person. And when that happens, sometimes you have to push back and say, no, that's the person I'm sending. They're quite equipped to represent the department. And then if you are going to the meeting, ensure that, you have an agenda. There's a time frame. Ask them, how long is this meeting going to be? If you can't stay for the duration of the meeting, say so upfront. Say, well, I know your meeting is from 10 to 1. I can only be there from 10 to 11. And so let me tell you, you train people how to treat you. They will adjust and take, your section that you have to contribute to. They will take that first. Usually that's how it works. But you have to be very, very, very jealous of your time and use it wisely and not allow meetings to hijack you. So let us this is kind of segue into looking at some of the comments here, right? And so Anta makes a point here. Legislature needs to play a part in creating the balance needed. And I suppose Anta is relating to things like flexible work arrangements, 4-day work weeks, allowances for remote work, etc. Now, truth be told, we didn't in COVID, did we not? Everybody was working remotely. But somehow not all organizations have learned and I've considered the benefits of that. And so, Hillary, what are your thoughts?
Thanks, Loy. That's an interesting question because in COVID, I became a homeschool teacher. Whole new thing. You know, the flexible work hours and the working from home, it can work for some, depending on the kind of organization, the kind of work you do. And it's also important to note that this is not necessarily an answer, because as studies have shown since then, is that the work from home and the flexible hours and so on themselves can create its own set of issues if you don't set those same boundaries that we've been talking about.
Exactly.
And set those same goals that we're talking about. And if we don't schedule, right, our time, because very often you find that you're working until 11 o'clock at night because you don't have to jump in your car and drive 10 miles or 15 kilometers or whatever it is home, right? And you can go out and get a snack and so on. So the thing is, I see somebody saying best fit is important in the chat. And it's true.
Yeah.
Also, you still have to have that intention and prioritization. Yeah. You still have to prioritize that time to have dinner with your children and your husband or your wife or your whatever, and to know that at X amount of time spent doing Y work, it is now time to disconnect and to connect with people. We find Harvard and all sorts of people have been writing about it recently, that we have to have that interconnection with people, because technology, as much as I've been working in technology and I love it, it can also present a clear and present danger. Yeah, because it becomes so easy to fall into and always available and always online. Right? And the question is, are you meeting the goals that you want? And are you truly using that time and that flexibility that you have to be more productive and to improve your well-being? Keep focusing on the well-being. It's achievable, but it's a choice that you commit to.
Yeah, indeed. No, I am going to put somebody in the audience on the spot, and she is none other than Joanna Taylor from I Am Tailor Made. She is my personal trainer, and I invited her to log in. I said, Joanna, I'm asking you to unmute because there's a question that I asked Joanna, and I am going to ask her again about it. And so, work-life balance, part of that, an essential part of that, is looking after our physical health. And so senior leaders, we talk about all these many meetings, we tend to lead very sedentary lives. We tend not to eat properly, hydrate properly, and we're not exercising as we should. And people commute a lot. Lots of people commute quite a bit. And so they have long days, long commutes. And I said, Joanna, in light of all of that, what am I to tell my coaches who have all of these challenges? How do they design their lives to accommodate exercise and good diet? So, Joanna, welcome. I'm putting you on the spot.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Can you repeat the question for me and let me answer accordingly?
So the question, let me summarize it. Question is, you're a senior leader.
Yes.
You have a long commute. You have long hours. You need, nonetheless, to find time to look after your physical health.
Yes.
You are often having a very sedentary life, long hours in the car, long hours sitting at a desk somewhere. With all of those demands, how do you ensure, how do you craft and design your life to include exercise?
All right. Well, the first thing to note is we have to look at exercise as something that is a part of our lives, whether we like it or not. Exercise tends to be the, the stepchild that no one no one wants to get close to, when
Yeah.
this stepchild could be somebody that is just brimming with love and wants to just be a full part of your life. Exercise should be something that is fun. So it's so important to incorporate um not doing all or nothing. I with a lot of my clients, especially senior leaders, they kind of get caught up in, I have to do 1 hour of this activity, or I have to do it in this way and this kind of fashion, when really, because life is so extent sorry, and life is happening, it's important to see, how can I fit exercise in the smallest way? Not necessarily all of it, but a piece of it. So I would suggest, how can we look at 15 minutes? How can we look at 20 minutes? How can we look at pairing that up throughout the day? Do I need to park a little bit further than usual so I can walk in? Do I need to wake up a half an hour earlier so I can get 15 to 20 minutes in? Because the reality is, your physical health, or should I say exercise, really helps to impact your mental health. There is no denying that. Studies are big on that. And you ever notice when you exercise, at the end of it, you're like, man, why wasn't I doing that before? That felt so great. What was I missing? But a lot of the time, it's almost like a push for us to get into it. So that's why I would say, choose something that you enjoy. So that might be gardening, that might be dancing, that and make sure that it's at a time of day that works best for you, and an amount, a period of time that works. So it could be in the morning, but is it in the morning, but 15 minutes in the morning? You know, is it that I can try 10 minutes now and 10 minutes later?
Yeah.
You know, so it's really about, it's not about not doing it at all, but trying our best to just give ourselves enough to be able to fill our cup and keep us calm and relaxed for the day to come.
Thank you so much, Joanna. I see Hillary waiting, wanted to just jump in. Jump
Oh
in.
gosh.
And it's so important that you ask that question of your personal trainer, because one of the things that I found, again, being able to manage the meetings and all of these things and the various, is that some days, instead of taking an elevator or picking up the phone, I would walk and climb the 3 or 4 flights of stairs to go sit with somebody for the 15 minutes or so, or 20 minutes for that meeting or that discussion that needed to have. And you did more than one thing. You
Yes.
actually had you moved, you got some steps in, you got some flights in, and you
Yes.
made a connection. And who knows what might have come out of that discussion.
And you know what you did too, to add to what you're saying, you gave yourself time to be in a mindful place. So, while you were walking up the steps, you were able to just catch your breath, which is necessary for clarity. And it's necessary to help you to just be able to be a lot more friendly and a lot more engaging. Beautiful.
And also, when I was at the cabinet office, I found a yoga studio that was nearby. And it's not something I'd done really before. But I heard about it, got interested in it. And I thought, oh, well, the traffic I'll never be able to get. But then I said, well, suppose there's another one other than the one I heard about. And there was. And I got involved in that. And I made a decision that 3 or 4 times a week I was going to do that. No, I go 4 or 5 times a week, early in the morning. And there was also an online class that you can do. And I found that to be one of the best things to be able to deal with the whole matter of mindfulness, to be able to focus, to be able to get the exercise in, to manage your blood pressure, your these the healthy eating is probably easier than before. It's very easy to not do it, to get the quick snacks and so on and eat at your desk and so on. That's dangerous because of salt and sugar content and also the other stresses that it brings. Make that time perhaps 40-minute lunch, might be an hour, an hour and a half, a 40-minute lunch, but make the time to have something with, perhaps if you can even have it with somebody. I think Laura told you the story about one of my first jobs, what they did. And I was very blessed managing director who believed in this kind of thing. And they built out a nice cafeteria. One of the office helpers became a chef. And so there are times when the people who were working on the ports and so on had to be at work from 6 o'clock in the morning. So they would come in and have breakfast. And there was also the capability for lunch. And everybody would come together because she was extremely good. And that built a really nice camaraderie within the organization. But people also were able to have that connection and a healthy meal together. And that sense of community made the organization really click. So it's possible. And as you say, take those 15-minute bites of exercise. This, Laura, I know you wear one of these too.
Yes, I do.
You to move, get up and move, right? And so that helps. That helps because we tend to get involved in this and it's always there and we're focusing on that. And that's also not good for you. And you have to be conscious about it and limit it as well.
Yes. You know, you and I are women. Joanna is female. And many of the participants here, attendees here, are female, but there are quite a few males. And I'm just wondering if we could hear from any of the males. You know, is there, you know, there might be gender differences in how these issues of achieving work-life balance affects a male senior leader as opposed to a female. And so I am going to take the liberty to call on my dear boss, Mr. Devon Rowe, just to share any of his, just any personal perspectives from a male perspective, really, about managing work-life balance. No, I didn't warn him enough, so I'm laying hands on him suddenly. So let me hope that, you know, he doesn't have any technical challenges. But if not Mr. Rowe, I'm going to call on Mr. Black, Dr. Damian Black from the Jamaica Territorial Education Commission. And he's just really sharing from a male perspective. What are some of the issues from a, you know, work-life balance perspective?
Yes, morning.
Damian. Hi, Damian. Great.
Yes, man, great. Yes, thank you. I appreciate the conversation so far. I think the basic issue that we face, well, let me just give you this this example. You know, school has restarted, and so where I live, I have to commute into Kingston. And so I had the joy of being able to get an extra hour, leave at a good time, and drive at a relaxed pace during the summer. But you know how it is now. In September morning, and so you really have to go. But the problem is the hours that I would now leave, say 5:45, not working because I'm getting to work late. So I now said to myself, okay, well, let me try 5:30. Now that is working, but I said to myself, if I had to leave any earlier, well, I will just have to be late. Because it's really a sedentary life. I'm just driving, I'm at my desk, you know, try to eat properly, but I don't get much exercise. But what I do is, as I heard your colleague share, when I go to like the ministries or anything, I take the stairs. You know, I don't call people in their offices. I walk to their offices. Try to be as mobile as much as possible. So those are the little things I try to do. Totally inadequate, I used to walk in the evenings, walk on the weekends. I'm not doing that much, but I do need to recognize the need to really, re-engage that. As you go older, they say you lose your muscles and stuff. You have to exercise. I'm really looking at trying to improve my routine, but basically at this point now, I'm just trying to get in as much sleep, drink the water, I walk, as I said, and it does help between offices. I don't call on the phone. I just go outside from time to time, walk to the cafeteria to get lunch, walk back, that sort of thing. So, yeah, those are the things I'm trying to do, but probably inadequate, But anyway.
Honesty is the best policy. And
There's
one of the things I have found, which is, why do I have a personal trainer? And it is mainly the role that you play. Apart from, yes, it's technical guidance, but it's also to be an accountability partner. No, that doesn't have to be a personal trainer. Who in your life can become that accountability partner and that partner to help you to stay on track in terms of, managing your work-life balance. It's very important.
if I may, one of
Go
the things
ahead.
that I learned in the yoga practice and so on is practicing not the mindfulness part of it, which is important, but just breathing and just simple stretches through the day, doing things like this and you breathing. There's a little paper that I shared with some of my clients, and it's a perfect breath centering, which also brings down your blood pressure, helps you to focus. But just that breathing alone and also exercising your lungs and your muscles in your torso, and it's very beneficial for your health. But it also is a form of exercise and also keeping your muscles flexible and strong. It's easy. You can do it anytime. You can take a few minutes in the morning. You can even do it when my colleague from Jamaica, who is commuting from 4:45 in the morning or 5 o'clock in the morning, you can do it while you're stuck in traffic. Yes, you can do that and do those stomach exercises and so on. So there are some possibilities, yeah, that we can do. I think I saw somebody who spoke to how do persons with physical disability here. I don't have the answer because I think
well, Marky, I think that question related to, they were really commenting on something somebody else said about a building design for people to walk, and they are now asking, oh, but if there's no elevator to use, how do the physically challenged fare?
well, it should also always be making space in your design to be able to allow for that.
Yeah.
Also, those exercises and so on that those people can do who face those challenges to be able to stay healthy as well. So I think design of buildings to be able to keep them cooler, to be able to make sure. I was reading something the other day where a particular city lowered the actual ambient temperature because they made certain regulations in design where people had to plant trees and create those spaces where people could get together. It improves the physical environment, but it also improves the quality of life and the well-being of the people who work in those spaces. And I thought it was really interesting. And it's something I think that we all can look at. We know the issues of climate change and so on, and we all are exhausted with the terrible heat that I think this year has been worse than anything else, and it's draining for all of us. And there are things that to make that environment more pleasant and more healthy.
Yeah. As we, believe it or not, we are winding down to the end. And so if people have other questions, you can quickly post them in the chat. I just started to think about what are some other tips for achieving, how do we achieve work-life balance? And so one of the things that we talked about really using time blocking, scheduling, being intentional about setting boundaries, having the difficult conversations with, the people that you're working with about work-life balance, how we can don't take an all or nothing approach to exercise, but squeeze in chunks that are doable, finding something that you enjoy. I think the other thing that comes to my mind too is, as senior leaders, I think you have to really think about the job that you have. Hillary said earlier, it's a calling. But is this the right job for you? Why do I say that? Because a lot of us, I think we're mainly public sector persons here, right? We tend to come up in the system, and it's not expected that you will progress and go to the next level and the next level and the next level. And at some point, you must ask yourself, are you called to do this job? No, I'm not saying everyone must get up and resign their jobs, but the truth of the matter is sometimes we're doing jobs that are not the best fit for you. They are not the best fit for you. And if you are working in a job where most of the tasks that you have to undertake, you absolutely hate them, then that's not the job for you. No, notice I'm not saying no, we can't take all or nothing. No job you're going to enjoy all aspects of the job. There are always going to be some tasks that you find a little bit more stressful than others. That's life. But if most of the things that you're doing in your job, you don't like, you're not particularly productive, maybe you can even do them, but you absolutely don't enjoy them. So you can do it, but do you enjoy them? That's something you can hire either myself or Hillary as a coach to help you to, investigate these things. But really and truly, life is too short to be spending doing something that really is completely stressing you out. And there's a stress that comes from not so much quantity of work, but just doing something that you truly dislike. As opposed to, it can be good stress. A little stress is good, when you're doing something that you enjoy, and you might feel tired at the end of a workday, but it's I like to call it the good tired. Are you feeling good tired or bad tired? If you're always feeling bad tired, where the thought of going to work is giving you anxiety and panic attacks, then I think you really need to look at that carefully.
You remember, Laura, earlier this morning, I sent you something that I was just looking to see if I could find it to share it with the team, with the group, where you have a whole line of German shepherds lined up. And we love it, you have a little dachshund, right? And it says, when you apply for the job that you're not qualified for, but you apply anyway, right? The point is, and there's actually that sometimes the hardest person to lead is ourselves, and to be honest with ourselves. If it's really not your calling, yeah, then are there other things that other things that bring you fulfillment? How do you achieve those? And you make, again, it's a conscious choice. It's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy, right? And we understand that that can be a life-changing one. But when we look at it from a different perspective, how great could it possibly be?
Indeed.
If you don't know, if you don't try, how do you maybe take a course then or even look at something online and see what are the possibilities and the opportunities? Okay? That's how, like, for instance, I got into coaching. You love it. You love it. You got to love it, right? And that happiness that it brings. And again, what is your goal? Mine is, I want to pay forward some of the wonderful things and opportunities that I've had in my life. And the people who have come in my life, I said it earlier, right? That have enriched my life and made my life better. And I would ask all of you, look at your strengths and try and pay them forward and find a way to pay them forward.
Awesome. Thank you. I think I'd make that, kind of like the parting thought that we're going to end with. Let me just make sure. I'm just looking at the chat. Maria Mason Roberts is another one of our awesome and talented associate consultants here at CARICAD. And she says, makes a very good point here. We need to include work-life balance metrics in organizations as part of the performance support measures to ensure people begin to change their minds regarding presenteeism. Excellent point, Maria. It's not, yes, there are individual choices that we must make, but as senior leaders, we can actually have an influence in terms of how we manage our workspaces, how we manage our teams to include work-life balance. So this is a simple tip, very, very simple tip. Many of our public services, we have results-based management systems, we have work plans, strategic plans. These are often annual, they're broken down into quarters, etc., broken down into, team work performance plans, etc. When we're doing annual work plans, we need to simultaneously look at the vacation leave roster. So I remember when I was chief personal officer, if the team leads, when they're submitting their annual work plans, they had to also alongside it submit the annual leave roster. Now, what that does is a number of things. One, we can't be planning the work as if people are going to be at work all the time. No, people do take leave and should take leave. And most leave can be planned. And so if you are planning the workload allocation, who's going to do what at what time in the work year, it makes so much, you will be more productive. You will actually manage your resources to meet the specific goals that you have to achieve. And you're also saying to your staff, hey, we expect you to take leave. We expect you to take time to recharge. You are important in this equation. It's not just about the work. And both things can be managed, planned, and we can achieve the outcomes on both sides. People-centered, task-centered approaches have to come together. All right. So, believe you me, we're just about out of time. Hillary, although I did say the last thing could be the last thing, but is there any one parting thought you'd want to leave with us here today before we close out?
I want to say that recognize how valuable you all are. Recognize just how valuable you all are. The strengths you have, the experience you have, the passion that you have. And when you value that yourself, value yourselves, then the importance of getting that work-life balance comes into sharp perspective. And you have those choices to make. You are all an amazing resource for each of your countries. Never forget that. And your role models. When you appreciate your own self and your value, then I beg of you, take this seriously, look at it from a very positive perspective, and know that you will be doing the absolute best for your organizations, yes, and for your personal life, your families, your loved ones, your friends, and so on. Take it seriously, take it with a positive energy and a positive perspective, and just know how valuable you are every day, and take care of yourselves. It's been great.
It's been so fantastic. What a great conversation. And we're probably going to have a part 2, believe you me. But Hillary, from the bottom of all our hearts, thank you so much. You would have seen the comments in the chat. Lots of people have been saying Thanks. And believe it or not, we are at the end, folks. And I just want to wrap up with a couple of announcements. So first of all, we want your feedback. And so Roger, our virtual producer, he's going to be putting in the chat a link to our survey poll. We believe here at CARICAD that feedback is a gift. And so we want to get your feedback on today's webinar, including any suggestions you have for other topics. In terms of announcements, our next webinar will be next month, October 22. We will be partnering with the Caribbean Climate Smart Accelerator. Yes. They will be our guest facilitators talking about some great work and improvements and accomplishments that have happened with a lot of the tools that they have developed and piloted across the Caribbean to deal with climate change and managing climate change readiness and impacts. So you don't want to miss that. So you can look out for that. We are going to soon be advertising two of our flagship programs. One is our Leading Change workshop that will be held across 4 days in the month of January 2025, just $1,000 US for the fees. And so we will be advertising that. And we will also be advertising another flagship program, our 6-month program, Transformational Leadership Development Program. That's a program really targeted at permanent secretaries and persons who are successors for those roles, persons who are really preparing people for senior leadership in the public service. Either you're going to transition or you're there already. It's a great program, and all of our programs, our flagship programs, are going to count towards globally recognized continuing professional development unit points. And so that means that this qualification will be recognized basically everywhere in the world as professional developmental opportunities. So with that, I just want to thank you all for attending, and we wish for you all the best. Have a good rest of the day and a great work week. See you at our next webinar next month. Thank you.